Bienvenidos to Humans in Accounting, the podcast where we pause the AI buzz for a minute and focus on the real humans behind the numbers. We chat with founders and leaders to hear their journey, what drives them, and the important things in life. Because behind every balance sheet, there's a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Humans in Accounting, where leaders share their story behind the spreadsheets. As you know, I'm Alex Roman, and this podcast is brought to you by South Offices, connecting accounting talent across borders. Today's guest, I'm really happy to have you, Anne-Sophie Baribeau. Now you tell me how to pronounce exactly your last name.
Yes.
Baribeau. Baribeau, is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry for my, I don't know, not French. Sophie is the founder at MyTechtal. And Sophie, I'm so happy just to have you here in Humans in Accounting. Welcome.
Thank you, Alex. Very nice to see you again. Thank you for hosting me.
No problem. I'm happy that we ended up doing this. We met each other in Scottsdale. That was the first time we met, and since then we talked a few times. We even tried just to do work in a couple of opportunities together. And look, here we are, and you as a guest in Humans in Accounting.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we've done this. Tell me a little bit, and Sophia, let's start from the beginning. As you know, this is Humans in Accounting. Tell me a little bit about your background. What have you been doing? Tell us a little bit about your company. I want to know it. I want to know it all.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hold our horses here. I'll answer one of the questions first. So to give you a bit more insights, I would say I'm Canadian, I'm Québécoise, so I do speak French as a first language, hence the pronunciation for you of my name is a bit more difficult. But we do have one thing in common. Alex is hiring, of course. I overall a little bit about me. I grew in recruiting from hiring like high volume of candidates. I'm also a social worker from training, so I'm very like human focused. And I did business, so I did lots of connection. I had lots of connection in the accounting world because all the courses as well is very well connected. And I had lots of friends who were accountants, so it did kickstart my career at some point. Even my business, recruiting some accountants for some firms in Canada as well. But over the years, I've really specialized in tech, and then the axis between tech and accounting did take my business to another level in 2024, and hence some of the reasons why I also met you in Scottsdale as well. So that's a little bit about the connection between tech and accounting, and also my love for humans, which we do share. So I hope that kind of answer a little bit about me and my background.
That answers a few of the questions that because one of the things that I was going to ask you is, well, you're here in humans in accounting. I was going to ask you what's your relationship with accounting. I can understand your relation from the human part, but it's exactly what you've said. You worked with a few accounting firms, and now you specialize. Well, it makes sense. MyTechtal, it's from MyTech Talent. Tell me a little bit about like which are the typical clients that you work now with. Do you work with a specific niche? I wanna understand that a little bit better.
That's a very good question, Alex. So now I would say over the last year I've focused a bit more towards like deep tech. So anything that's very highly technical, and that's like I would say it takes away from more of the accounting side of things. But I'm someone that's very thorough, and that's very different from perhaps a lot of technical recruiters you'll be meeting in the space, because I not only focus on humans, the cultural fit, how people think, what they need as well in terms of personality, but also the soft skills they have, but I take the time with my client to really help them define what they need on a technical perspective. So, example, I try to listen often in case I meet example founders, perhaps like you know, and I try
Right.
to understand what's on their backlog, what they're aiming for. And I really try to write, down, or, try to research about the new tools, new technologies, to really avoid the hassle that they're facing in their space and define profiles that will give them an edge over their competitors. So, example, I'll look at the new tools in the sector and what their competitors are currently using in terms of tech stack, in terms of tools, etc. And that's not necessarily something I would say most recruiters do, but I do very much all of that. And I try to find people who really have specific example, track of success stories, that de-risk the technical projects that they're handling. Nowadays, we do have AI. We do have lots
Right.
of tools that gets us going, that helps us like get the things, rolling. But I would say more and more it's important to find people with those tight requirements, whether it be budget, whether it be like location based and skills. The framework usually in like for founder, what's really critical is like the technical space, the business acumen, but also the operational like skills, which is more in the realm of soft skills. But those things nowadays, I think people find more and more needs for like high quality talent. We are overloaded with resume, but we do need high quality talent more than ever to be able to not only make sure that we don't have to redo any project, but also make sure that we don't have to rehire or anything, in the future. Because that can be very,
Absolutely.
very costly for the environment, just in terms of like culture, how people feel. It can cost a lot of money in terms of turnover. So it's really important to hit the nail on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's usually when people come in and they knock at my door, they're like, oh, it's because they have to redo a project, because now they realize, oh shit, it's important.
Right, 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 right. Well, I remember, I'm pretty sure that I asked you this question in Scottsdale. Would, or I don't know if you're still hiring, you hire like in a specific, in the States, in Canada, in Latin America, and China, and Korea. Tell me that, because I'm asking specifically this question because I know that you've been to Korea a few times. Is that right?
Yes, I've traveled to South Korea and I've lived in South Korea 2 years. I worked as a full cycle recruiter.
Hmm.
So I did learn Korean prior to going there, and just self study every day, just as a hobby. I learned also Spanish, but I lost Spanish along those
Hmm.
lines. But I still speak English, French, and Korean, so I can understand. I can speak probably intermediate level of conversation, and I grew like a network over there. So I went back again recently to work on some accounts that would build some logistics software. So that was really exciting.
But hold on, I need just to ask you a few follow-up questions there, because you said that you've learned Korean by yourself.
Yes, exactly. Just studying.
You watched the YouTube videos, you paid for a program. How? I mean, I just cannot imagine, because I'm pretty sure like you don't have the same letters, right, to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I
How
did
was that
seven
experience?
books, seven grammar books of Korean, just like,
Oh,
just as a hobby. Korean is so poetic as a language. The whole like structure, the language is very scientific. It's super interesting. I'm someone that's like, that can deep dive into a subject like blockchain, cryptography, like,
right.
if I need to kind of dive into something very specific to really understand what's going to bring an added value to my client, I have that same approach that I do with like, just studying Korean for fun back in the days. But
Well, this is, I don't know, and tell me, let me ask you, like, I don't know, culturally, I feel I've never been to Korea. Hold on, I've never been to Asia. Yeah, I've never
no,
been to Asia. No, it's definitely on my. I want to visit Japan. Well, now that we're talking about Korea, obviously Korea, but I've never been to Asia. I want to visit China as well. Tell me, like culturally, what were the? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that in the first week you were there, like the first thing that you noticed, like, hey, look, culturally for me, this is something that we do quite the opposite. What were the first thing that caught your attention from a cultural perspective?
Well, I'll give you a little piece. I would say, for since you're an entrepreneur as well, that might be important for you. But an advice that I would give for anyone who would travel there is, even if you don't drink, it's very important to, cheers with people, participate. So, example, they drink liquor, and that's part of the culture of, in Korean we say 회식. So 회식 is like meeting up, after work. It's like happy hour for us, and for them it's like it's a way of bonding. Koreans are very, it doesn't look like that, but they're the most like forward and direct, I would say, of most of the Asians that I know in terms of culture. So, example, if you're close to them, you'll know if they're very upset. And of course, in a cultural work setting, you won't know. But if you go, like going to Hueshik is like a good way to be able to know what's perhaps the frustrations, or kind of just blow off some steam and be like, so if you're working with them, you'll definitely drink
Okay, okay.
a lot.
So that was the first thing that. And is there anything that you ended up learning that you felt like, hey, look, they're doing this in a better way, or something like that, something that you learned? I don't know. I'm thinking about something like typical from every day. I don't know if you can think about an example, or if this is not the best
In the
question ever.
workplace, perhaps you would say,
Uh-huh.
one, in the workplace, it's a society that's a bit more conservative. So I guess I kept that. I come from a place that's super liberal in a way. Canada, East Side, French culture, and then going to South Korea, a bit more conservative. And now I'm in Texas. Boom, also conservative in some ways. So I would say people are a bit more conservative. Whether it be in dating, whether it be also in the workplace, it's a bit more top down. And I've recruited on the APAC, like, region, and people, they have a different culture about hiring. APAC in general is a bit more difficult because Canada and the US, I've recruited on both, and I still do. Canada, US, they have a very, very similar culture as people. They aim for enhancing their lives, and there's just so much more than just a salary. Whereas Koreans, I would say, they get a job and they work a lot, but often in case they have like side hobbies around that, or they have businesses. So for them, getting a job, it's often more about just the salary, bottom line. So it's harder
Okay.
to a bit convince, or get those software engineers. You have to think very much like differently, to be able to approach candidate and create connections. There's more distance a little bit. For me, kind of my role is to be able to sell companies, offer people opportunities as well, network for them. So definitely a pack sector is a whole new challenge. Whole new challenge.
Okay. Okay. I understand. I was just wondering, and this is the last question, but it's because I'm intrigued about the culture, and basically because I've never been to Korea. But I understand that there's also like good quality and the talent, right? For this specific profiles that you're helping other companies. Let me ask you, as far as here in South offices, like one of the advantages that we have while offering talent from Latin America, from Buenos Aires, from Argentina, is the time zone. What happens as far as the time zone from people from South Korea? is maybe not critical for a developer, a blockchain developer, just to be aligned in the same time zone, or how does that work? Tell me
Yeah,
a
that's a
little
very
bit.
good question, Alex. Actually, most of blockchain fintech companies, or at least the one I've worked with, are honestly like very remote focused because there's a I know people will say, oh well, there's lots of resume. Well, there's a lot of shit resume in
Right.
blockchain, in cryptography, and that's why usually they need clients contact me because there's not many people who have actually reliable track record of focus on really high deployable chain and then finding people who match the intersection for like startups that do have the accomplishment, the track record on like the mainnet, or even DLTs, whatever. But there's not that many product or solutions out there that have like a high usage compared to what we know for like the banking sector, logistic. It's much easier and it's higher risk as well in terms of compliance. If you go fintech, you do need people who understand what are the hurdles, what are the smart contract rules you got to put to be able to put that into place. So when you want to scale or build a platform that will be on different like regions, you do need people or talents that are highly skilled, high usage. So maybe you do need sometimes to hire in South Korea because also price very friendly, similar to Montreal in terms of ballpoint, and also high talent for sure. There's like
Right.
big companies there, Barachain, whatever they do hire, across. But yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question in some ways, but like
Yeah,
hiring.
yeah, no, but I also understand that maybe for I don't know, an engineer who is like writing lines of code, sometimes it's more important that person is like concentrate for a week until they get this new feature, or they release a part of the software. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Whether maybe if you're looking for another type of role, I don't know, a bookkeeper or someone who needs just to interact with a client, yes, in that case it's definitely an advantage being on the same time zone. So I can understand maybe that could be an explanation, if that makes if that.
Say mm, across space, I think most software companies don't want to compromise on communication skills. So,
Hmm.
example, having a talented recruiter, example like me,
Hmm.
who are able to actually find talents who speak a very good level of English in another country that they can trust as well. Because I understand like the cultural differences. I've been connected to South Korea since like 2015 at least, studying the culture, having friends that are Korean. So I know a little bit of those nitty gritty spaces. So hiring there as well is it's much easier when you have people who understand that and can help you really be able to not compromise on technical skills, not compromise on soft skills, to not change too much your culture. As for hiring, I'm now building a tool, building a solution.
tell
And then
tell
hopefully I can help my clients who are working on different time zones be able to debrief on talents that they're hiring in Canada, in the US, in South Korea, or even Argentina,
or even
taking patient
absolutely.
decisions. Yeah.
Tell me, I want to know everything. Tell me more. What are you building? What is this the software that you're building?
Oh well, I'm pretty happy. Well, hopefully that's coming out next week. Spoiler
Next
alert.
week. All right.
Yes, a V1 next week. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm currently building a software that helps my client basically define their technical needs in a much more advanced way. And that's a technique that I currently do with my clients. So I gave you a little bit of an insight earlier about what I do. So taking the critical items in their backlog and really defining the skill sets, or perhaps the items that really makes a differentiation to the
Mm-hmm.
risk project. And that platform not only helps me help my client define what's a high talent, but it also helped me do some advanced research in the space for my other recruiters in my team. And also, it helps them find those talents. So it does reach from my websites that I pay to help those clients be able to find those very niche talents and even complete the recruitment project with me, scoping in terms of a budget they desire and even debrief overall. So it's a full cycle recruitment tool, which I'm super excited to deliver because for clients who are in blockchain where they have like different talents, some they go for Series A. I bet you can imagine their recruitment process is pretty long, right?
Right, obviously.
And on an average example, I was working with a startup in Toronto. They had a process of about 7 steps. And I realized that's super costly. One. Second thing, I realized that it's more about asking like better questions. Asking better questions, but also the coordination aspect is super important. Those startups, they need external partners, but what they need is not just being pushed resume who don't provide value. They want resume who are in line with their biases, their desire, their preferences, because people work for people, right, Alex?
Right.
And that's why we do what we do. And I realized, yes, I'm building like an AI software, but the goal is to keep the human center in their interactions. There's so many platforms out there where you can like literally shop talents. Does that provide any value? Somewhat, yes. Does it remove the work? No. But working with, example, a service company that has a platform like that, it really helps you define better, and have a common understanding for your team. And that's super critical. That time that we don't spend aligning our project, if we don't have a common plan, we can't get anywhere, right?
Right. And hold on, Anne-Sophie. And how does this work? Like anyone who wants to hire, or it's gonna go to your website and it's gonna be able just to start putting all this together and getting those results without your help. Are you gonna? Do they need just to pay something? How? Explain me or walk me a little bit. Just give me a preview
Okay.
so that I can understand what to expect, or listeners.
Okay. Very well. Fair enough. So yes, it's going to be hosted on my website. It's going to
Okay.
be open and available. So if you want to check it out and snoop, you can.
Okay.
That's going to be possible. But I would say, I think the goal is to really keep my account executive, on the ball, being able to, focus on the client because it's a service, after all, and having good conversation, transferring that knowledge. To this day, there's no better way than a good conversation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure you know it, right? Like people, they say much more, they explain much more what they think, feel, and need or desire through a conversation and talking human to human compared to just talking to a robot or an AI,
Right.
So there's value to that. So, yes, you can use it to answer your question. You can start the flow directly on the website. You can extract some profiles if you want. I mean, at the end of the day, those top talents, it's not just about posting and praying. You need to go out there, you need to make an offer that they will be compelled to accept, and also make sure that they fit within your requirements. And if you just reach out, those talents, they're not replying to just anyone. You have to have
Right.
that approach that's specific, that explains the technical problems they will be working on. You have to have a good method, and that's different from, example, you reaching out being like, okay, come work for me. Yeah, well, they're
Right.
they're already busy. These people, they're busy. Like, if you want their attention, you got to be clear, you got to be concise, you got to make sure you don't lose their time. So overall, it's not just about defining. I help my clients define what they need, but I also help them get those people for them.
No, right, and it's also important. I think it's key also just to be aligned with the candidate and the company from, I don't know, the values that the company has, what they're building for, why they're building that piece of software or whatever they're doing. I think that part is super critical, just to have that person happy, working with them, aligned, and probably that person is gonna stay for a long time. And all that is part of this first few steps that we both understand, maybe from different profiles, but that part is key. And yeah, I can tell because we made I don't know if you remember, when was it, yeah, at the beginning of this year, I think that we made or I saw how you interview some candidates, and I also remember some feedback that you gave them, and they were really happy. So yeah, I know for a fact how you work, which is great. I need just to ask you something that it's really important here for me. I have a few passions, and one of those is eating good food. And I'm just curious, and I want to ask you, Anne-Sophie, what's your favorite food directly?
It's a very difficult question for me because I'm also a huge foodie, so it's so difficult. But if I really have to pick one,
You
example,
have.
my birthday's coming up. I would say Peking Duck. I really like Peking Duck. Yeah.
I'm sorry, and this is definitely because English is not my first language. I have no idea what is Peking duck, you said?
Yes, Peking Duck, exactly.
What is it? What do I need to just go on Google and put Peking duck? What is?
Yeah, you have to check it out. It's great. It's so tasty, honestly. I can cook it as well. I did cook myself some Peking duck for Christmas, so that was fun. Here in Austin, Texas. It was a bit of a freestyle though, but usually Peking duck is basically so I assume you already had duck before in your life. Have you had duck?
Duck I had, yes.
you know?
Yes.
But basically Peking duck is like usually it's a Chinese dish, and I do have many dish that I love and I couldn't pick anything almost, but it's usually it's like a mix of Chinese spices. You can make like a base with like different like Chinese spices, anise, star anise, you can make also there's also 5-star spices, sometimes that's in the mix depending on the recipes, and you lake the duck while it's cooking, and usually to make the crispy kind of outlook of the duck you have to inflate the skin to really like separate it from the meat and the skin, to when you lake the brush it with the sauce, it like creates that like crispy texture of the duck, and then you can cut it. And I usually cook some little like pancakes, which is like just a bread that I roll and then you grill the little like crepe and you put it in it, and you put it on the pancake and then a little bit of meat on the pancake, and then you cut some scallions and some cucumbers so to make it very fresh, and you add some hoisin sauce
Whoa, whoa.
basically.
While you were describing this, I looked at a few pictures. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I never tried it, but it looks delicious. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that I can go now to just to any Chinese here and Chinese
No, it's
restaurant
not
in.
everywhere. It's not served
No,
everywhere. No. It's
all
you
right.
have to look specifically for restaurants who make it, and it's not all places. Typical, very good Peking duck will sometimes, I would say, but the best ones they will offer to marinate even the bones after you buy the
Mm,
duck for you. Then you can bring back the bones who are marinated, and you can make a soup out of it. Those
okay.
are the OG places that are awesome. Kind of bad to say, less white people, better it is. But
All
you
right.
have, you have to come visit me in Montreal so you can have it, Alex. I'll probably be back very soon.
For sure, for sure. If if there's a good place just to have a good, well, now I need just to try to pick and duck. I'm happy just to visit. Perfect. this is definitely the first. You're the first person who said Peking Duck. My objective is just to do a ranking. So most likely now Peking Duck it's gonna be somewhere on the ranking, at least with one vote. Maybe we get a few more in the next episodes. Tell me, Anne-Sophie, plans for the future. Does I don't know, now until the end of the year, for the next 5 years? Tell me, what are the your plans?
Well, first things first, I'm gonna make sure to make the most out of it here in Austin, Texas. I'm in Capital Factory, which is a startup incubator. It's a blast. So anyone who doesn't know it, they should visit. It's a must for entrepreneurs. You have everything to really start a business, from like the VC funds to the snacks to the people. It's bombastic. And the people are gems. Okay,
Great.
if guys are scared of Texas, don't be scared. People are so homey, welcoming, kind hearted. I stayed there a little bit because it's so great. I wish to be back here. I'll be flying soon, September 9th, back to Canada, back to family as well. Hopefully, once my software is out, which is beginning of September, you know, I'm going to start that chapter being able to accompany new companies into defining their backlogs more accurately in terms of hiring, having that alignment.
Mhm.
And I aim to focus on deep tech. Right now I have great profiles that are for like government, really high deep tech drones, communication equipment, cybersecurity profiles, and hopefully I get to even hire in nuclear. So that would be something I'd be very, very excited about. But yeah, anything that's very scientific. I am highly technical. I just love the hardware, the software, where there's a bit more definition and research and even blockchain. If I get to do all of this, but these next few months, I'll focus on these roles because there's a need and I have the connections here. So that's really what I'm looking at, and perhaps even visiting for the colder months Argentina. So that would be great. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely scaling my company. Hopefully even moving back here. I'll let I'll let perhaps the universe God to lead me to the next chapter.
To decide. I'm sure it's going to be a really exciting chapter. I'm pretty sure that there's a random person in YouTube in the future watching this episode, and they realize that they just need just to hire someone in blockchain. And we have been talking about blockchain, Web3, and they want us to reach out. What's the best way, Sophie, just to reach out to you directly?
Well, it can be on LinkedIn. It's always important to reach out not only by email but also social media. On a cybersecurity perspective, I just prioritize as well, like reach out that are on LinkedIn because that's my professional network. And with everything that's out there, we just want to be more kind of secure. So reaching out on LinkedIn it's very good. It's easy. It can be on X as well. I'm more on LinkedIn, though a lot of my clients are on X or like blockchain. So I do check that out pretty often. So those two are very important. Social media.
Perfect, perfect. I'll make sure just to tag you while we release this episode. And Sophie, I'm happy. I'm happy that we made this happen. It was really nice having you here in Humans in Accounting. I'm definitely gonna try that. What was it? A Pick and Duck, right?
Yeah, Peking Duck and perhaps even my software. We never know.
And definitely your software. Once we publish this episode, we can put a link there underneath. And Sophie, thank you so much for joining in humans in accounting. And yeah, everyone, see you in the next episode. All right,
Thank you.
see
Bye.
ya. Bye bye.